Definitely, and I think people, because it's stressful, they don't even think about it. They just say yes. They don't ask themselves, can I afford this? Is this the best way for me to build my relationships? Is this a pathway that's going to make me happy? And we were chatting, what are the alternatives? You know, when you're faced with that moment, you're invited to do something that you know is not in the budget. We were thinking maybe you can take a moment and think about the goals that you have. And I think people are empowered around you to help you reach your goals. So if you invite me out for dinner and it's not in my plan that week, what if I were to tell you, I'm saving for a vacation? And so I really want to keep my eye on the prize. That vacation's important to me. Why don't you come to my place for dinner? Yeah, can we find pathways through that? Maybe you'd be on my side and you'd be less likely to egg me on to purchases.
Is this
I
part of
can't
the
afford,
mentorship
right?
process where you have these conversations, with clients that are coming to see you, and give them those types of strategies where, look, this is where you're going to weed out those who you do want to surround yourself with in order to help you, climb out of this position. Is that a conversation that's had frequently?
Not as frequently as it should be, okay? But the other thing I want to go back to that Carolyn touched on here is that, when we talk about with clients about how to build a budget, the first thing we talk about is establishing goals. So that then you can make that wise decision, you can make that trade-off. Because most people right now do not have goals, right? They're just rolling along and it's just like, hey, let's go out for dinner. Oh yeah, okay. So they don't think about it in terms of the context of, okay, dinner, house, dinner, vacation, whatever the case may be. And so that's the first thing that we talk about. Establish your goals, short, medium, long term. Okay, and then that allows you to have that conversation in your head as to, okay, how am I going to handle this?
So this, of course, entails building a real budget, I would think. Tight budget. Now, there is people that I'm sure you've spoken to, I know I've spoken to some, that seem to have, friends, family, like real, honest, like emotional connections to items purchased, which I think is a relatively new phenomenon, but it is happening. What are people saying when you talk to them? Is that part of the, part of the process, the mentoring process? This is, you're looking, I assume you're looking at some of the documentation, what money's been spent on. Are people justifying purchases based on that emotional connection for an inanimate object? I think it's happening. I tell you right now, I love my car. It's not the most affordable thing in the world, but I think I've been a victim of that myself.
Definitely people make emotional purchases.
Yeah.
And I think perhaps we just want people to stop for a moment and make the list. Decide what are your needs and what are your wants. And wants aren't evil. It's okay to have things that you just love to have around you.
That's right.
I feel the way about musical instruments. So they're probably not something I need, but they make me really happy. And so I'd like to have that around. I think it's okay, and I think it's a matter of then deciding within that list of wants, what do I value, what other goals do I have, and am I willing to make any compromises on those?
And again, it goes back to that, again, the trade-offs, right? It's just like, okay, well, I can spend $60,000 on this SUV. Now, that's a want. I want that, okay, but my need is transportation, and what are my other options? And then you can make those conscious decisions.
That's right.
But most people, again, don't go through that. They just think, hey, I work hard, and this is the other thing I'm going to come back to in terms of, why we have this debt problem. It's that marketing machine, right? It's there, definitely. And it says, you should have that BMW, Kevin, and it only cost you $399 a month or
and
whatever.
You earned it. And you earned it.
You
right?
earned it. That's
Folks,
right.
We're gonna cut to a quick break and hear from the Rant Pack. Stay with us.
Here's the thing about debt. People should not be applying for credit until they understand what compound interest is and what that means on their credit charges. They should not be applying for credit if they don't know that a store card is going to cost them 29% a month, compounded annually. And they shouldn't be applying for credit if they don't know the difference between good debt, which is owning a home, and bad debt, which is buying stuff on your credit card. So if you're going to get credit, inform yourselves of those things first, ask an expert, and make sure you know what you're doing before you get yourself into debt that's going to wreck your life.
So I want to talk briefly about what Julie just touched on, essentially financial literacy. Are we becoming more financially illiterate as time passes? Young people in particular, your first home type thing, first-time home buyers. Is there a degree of financial illiteracy that maybe didn't exist generations ago?
Well, Mempum does a great job on financial literacy, so why don't you start off with what you guys do and how you view it, and then I'll fill in what Money Mentors does.
Sounds good. I I think there is a piece that's missing that in the conversation, perhaps in high school, where we don't go far enough into what is this math that I'm learning and how might it apply in my own real life. And I feel fortunate that I had people around me that were able to walk me through that, but maybe I was just lucky that I had a dad that was going to explain it to me as I went, and I was going to have friends who we were able to kind of break through the money taboo and have a conversation about the decisions we were making.
Oh, definitely.
And I think it's not a given that that conversation happens early enough.
No, and that's absolutely true. I mean, there is programs in high school. I remember when I was in high school, career and life management.
That's right.
Now, if you're going to talk about financing, I would hope that finance would be discussed in career and life management. Well, you know what? I think back, and I thought I was a pretty good student. You know, obviously not everybody would agree, but there wasn't much knowledge to be gained in that course, in that class whatsoever. So I think it's fair to say that people are coming out, young people are coming out, getting onto the job market, trying to buy their first home without the tools they need to make those decisions.
You know, we talk about financial literacy and financial empowerment as something that we wish was like plumbing. You don't have to think about how the water comes into your home, and I don't think we should have to think too hard about how to access financial services either, and the quality ones that are reasonable interest rates and all the rest of it. The plumbing that arrives, the easy stuff that arrives to us is pretty expensive credit. Definitely. And so that's what I would like to see change, particularly for young people, so they develop the good habits early.
So whose onus is it, though? Is it the onus of the education system, parents, local community groups? Clearly it's not going to be the bank.
Well, this has been a really big push for us at Money Mentors. We recognized exactly that issue in terms of, hey, let's get the word out and let's get it as young, let's go as young as we can, okay? So just some stats. You know, this 2013 was our first year where we went into high schools and full-time. We have people dedicated full-time to go in and do presentations. So we did over 250 presentations to young adults in 21 high schools in Calgary and 29 in Edmonton.
Wow.
Over 7,600 students.
Yeah, that's great.
Okay, so I mean, that's fabulous. And
really
we
is.
usually always get invited back. And so this year we took it one step further where we tried to get into elementary schools. And we had a reading, we would go in and read a book about, you know, financial literacy in terms that they can understand, right? Grade, 3 and 4 or whatever. Again, 29 schools, 85 presentations, 2,200 elementary age students, and just very, very receptive to what we're trying to do. So a really big push at Money Mentor, something that we want to continue. Because I agree totally that, hey, going back to your point, is it a generational thing? Well, I don't think it is a generational thing. I think it's a situation where you either had a good mentor or you didn't have a good mentor. But the more information that we can get out there, the people will recognize that, like on the plumbing thing, well, gee, that's maybe not the best deal. I'm going to shop around and find out something better. Or, my interest rate on my card is 19% on my credit card. Well, I see that they also have one at 8%. Well, why don't I take that one? And it's looking at the information, and it's, again, all just part of understanding how the system works. So.
And it's understanding, I think, that's going to break stigma.
Definitely.
Because there's a stigma around not being able to afford things, and there's a stigma around having lots of debt. And so I think people are going to have to make a choice for themselves which one they're going to fall to.
Should it be mandated at the educational level within the CBE, for example? Should debt management and finances be mandated as part of the program?
It may already be, and I think the challenge with asking the curriculum, we often say, it should be in the curriculum. There's a lot of competition for airtime in the curriculum, and I think we need it at the school level and we need it in community.
But I think it's a life skill.
It is, definitely, yes.
It's a life skill. I mean, it is everywhere. And we firmly believe that the message is not getting out there, so however you want to do it to increase that penetration into the mindset of youth, I think is a winner.
Yeah, it's got to start.
For sure.
I think it's great starting with the youngest group you can, really, elementary school.
And there's lots of reasons, but the other is compound interest, right? So if you get going with good habits early, you can have such a leap ahead of other people. And actually, it shouldn't be the anomalies that start saving when they're young. Everybody should be saving when they're young.
Our country has a good economy. Relatively speaking, we have a very healthy economy in Canada. Do we think that lends itself to people maybe having maybe a faux confidence, a confidence they maybe shouldn't have in their spending habits. Just, I mean, $500 billion in consumer debt across the country. That's a big number. That's a big number. Is the fact that our economy is so strong, is that leading people to maybe make bad decisions based on that false confidence?